We're back. What are we doing here? What's happening? We're back. This is the last season under the classic era, the golden age, some might say, defined by Murray Gold. The golden age.
Suppose we have to count this season because it's still Moffat.
Yeah. This is, I think, as we mentioned last time, we've caught up, and this is things we haven't seen now.
Yeah.
Fresh take.
Fresh content for the grinder.
Yeah, we get a lot of changes here. We get Capaldi's last series, Moffat's last. We get two new companions for this season. Yeah, I guess we'll just get into it.
Well, first we have a totally legitimate Christmas special.
Christmas special first, which is, of course, the brilliant, the fantastic, the great, the so good. It's so good. The so good. It's this is Return of Dr. Mysterio. This does not feel like a Doctor Who episode in the slightest.
No. It doesn't.
This was my, I swear it was a fever dream. It wasn't real, but it was.
This was my giant Cybermen attacking Victorian London.
Except even after watching it again, I still think it's a dream, and I'm still convinced it's not real. This is the first episode with Nardole as a companion.
He's just kind of there. But they continuously use the joke about how the Doctor reattached his head to a new body or something.
Yeah, that comes up a couple times.
He's kind of that's kind of what he is mostly what he is like a comic relief.
Yeah.
But I think he ends up having some charm by the end.
Yeah. Basically, this is a story about a kid who swallows a magic gem and becomes Superman.
Yeah, because it gives you what you want. It feeds off of what you want most. And he read a lot of comic books because he's a soy boy bug man from New York, living in his $3,000 apartment.
Yeah.
And can't ask the girl out that he's X-ray vision since high school. This episode, this episode isn't real.
It's not real. I really don't want to spend time on this.
I don't.
The notes.
Yeah,
actually,
that's
first
completely
series
fair.
because this is new content now. We both have notes.
Yeah. So how we want to do this?
I'll just read mine first, I guess.
All right.
Every series is last series. Doctor, screw this. Where's the little boy's room?
Oh, yeah.
Nardole wanted to know.
Yeah. He's talking to the villain of the episode, and he's like, where's the little boy's room? And then the guy tells him where the bathroom is.
So, right, and he's like, no, the little boy's room.
Yeah, I don't know. We still don't know what he meant by this.
What does it mean? I remember this. Oh, God, why? Why do I remember this? Didn't we just do that?
Could have been anything.
I don't think this is real. I have X-ray eyes. I like everyone.
Yeah, what a line.
Mrs. Lombard. The G stands for gay.
You had a lot of notes on this one.
I do. Good evening. Apparently someone's a vampire. And finally, the Doctor is a terrorist. He's back.
Yeah, he did straight up try to bomb New York.
Would you care to take your notes now?
That's New York. and we got an incredible CGI shot of New York. It was like completely fake city. He found the little boy's room.
He did.
That was farting. And then, something about X-rays.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this a 2 out of 10.
Ooh, a 2. Wow.
I think in terms of like quality, it's probably like 3 or 4. But the fact that it just is not a Doctor Who episode, I had to drop it a few. I considered 1. I don't think it's bad enough to be 1, but it is like weird enough to be a 1.
Yeah, I think 2 is fair. I agree.
But anyways, that's the Christmas episode out of the way. Now we get introduction of the season. This introduces a new companion. It sets up this weird fucking stupid shit that is dumb and
Yeah.
So this is the pilot. This is where we're introduced to Kill Bill Potts. Things I like about this episode. I liked the idea of Doctor like interviewing for new companions, sort of. That's something you probably should do.
That was kind of interesting, but at the same time, adding the sort of formality or like systemization to it, doing it like one time, I guess, is all right, because it's novel. But I definitely wouldn't want to see it again.
Right.
Because then that would just kind of 100% acknowledge that the Doctor just is like kind of just grooming young women into gallivanting in space with him. Anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. What else? Let's think here.
There's a puddle. There's a puddle that isn't real.
I like his lectures and just him like being a professor, especially Capaldi.
Yeah, I wished we got more of that. I really like what they do with it in Oxygen, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, for sure.
What I don't get is, okay, so we get introduced to Bill. She has her monologue for us to kind of like get a feel for the character. I still don't understand what the hell that was about. Even something about fattening someone with chips because she works at the cafeteria.
Yeah, she was saying she worked at the cafeteria and there was a lady she liked.
Okay.
So she gave her extra chips to like as like a flirting thing, but then she made her fat.
Awesome.
So she
Way to go,
like
Bill.
her anymore.
Yeah, if that's
we're back to the Davies, we hate fat people.
Even the first impression is not good.
I agree. That monologue was very strange. I think that was because I had seen a part of this episode. I think that is where I turned it off.
I've had enough.
Because I was like, what is even happening anymore? And then I went, I'm too old.
The rest of this,
turn it off.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And now here we are, for 5 years, 5 years later, and now we're definitely not too old for it. But the rest of the episode is Bill just chasing after this girl she's interested in.
Yeah.
Who's like weirded out by the puddle, and it turns out it's like alien space oil from a spaceship.
Yeah, it's like,
but we even get a shot from under the puddle of like an alien hand and voice, like, and then we never get anything else. Yeah. So it's like, it's called the pilot. She's obviously the pilot. Right. This alien sentience is piloting her, but it still tries to use the character Heather as like kind of her own thing. But it's like that's not what she is anymore. She's literally just being piloted by this thing that we acknowledged exists in the episode. So how is she her own independent character at this point? Well, I guess Bill does acknowledge, she's like, you're dead. But like, they still, the writers still like put them together.
Right.
Like it felt so strange when they put them together at the end.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
Because it's like, it's meant to be this sweet thing, but it's like, she's literally just a host for like an sentient alien oil. Where did the aliens go?
I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't make sense. And this episode feels very like you get whiplash from the pacing because it's like they go here, they're trying to run away, they go here, they go here, they go here, and it starts off like it starts off pretty quick with her talking and like the lectures, and then it slows down a lot for like the investigation part, and then it's back to this just like, and I don't know if that works horribly well. I guess now would be a good time to give our first thoughts on Bill because neither of us were familiar.
Yeah, I'd already said I couldn't even track her initial monologue, which is meant to be her character's first impression.
Yeah.
I couldn't even track it. Like my brain was just not comprehending. And now that I like understand it, I don't think it's a great first impression.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't think that monologue is a strong starter, but I don't hate Bill. I think she's good, but not horribly great. And as we'll see, I think they reuse a lot of beats for her.
Mm.
Sometimes like word for word beats or baggage or whatever. We'll get to those. But I do think she has some interesting stuff. I think Moffat does do some interesting stuff with her. We get some of it in this episode. I like her. She's almost like a meta tool for him how I saw it, because she comes in, she's like, "Oh, what's the phone box doing there?" And he's like, "I don't know, I fucking brought it in." She's like, "It can't fit through the door." Yeah, it was a crane. I don't fucking know. But I think she does that a lot.
The doctor is Rick.
She does a lot of things like that, like questions the audience would ask. She's like, "Oh, what do these levers do?" He's like, I don't fucking know." And I think that's probably the strongest point of her character is to like question these things we've become so accustomed to. And I think they do it all right in this episode, and they do it okay in some other ones. But I do think, as we'll get to, she does end up being a little underutilized or misused.
I'll give my thoughts at the end because I don't have a lot to say about Bill.
Yeah, and then we're introduced to the vault in this episode.
That's kind of the arc.
Which yeah,
it's like
really loose.
It's kind of the arc because the vault itself is not, but it's what the context around it is because it's housing Missy. Yeah. Like we even figured out before they confirmed it. Yeah. And that's more of the arc is like Missy and like the doctor kind of trying to reconcile with the master. Because it's like the only person that's like him. Yeah,
in some way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a bad theme.
No, it's not. I guess we'll get to that later on. Yeah. But notes, I guess, not a whole lot to say on this one. Heather is hot. Women are scary.
Very true.
Ghosts are always like scarier when they're hot.
Okay.
She's so scary and hot. I hate it. And then docked her.
All right. Yeah. You use a TARDIS while I'm using a FARDIS. What changed your mind? The BBC Studios.
Nice. Good.
Yeah. And I apparently gave this a 5 out of 10. It's now a 3 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm going to give it a 4. I think it's got enough okay stuff, but it is balanced out by a lot of stupid stuff, and the pace is just way all over the place.
And I don't know if I can't remember if they did it for this episode, but we find that in a few of the episodes in this season, they do these cutting flashbacks to a scene that we had literally saw 10 minutes prior.
They do it in this
like
one.
An anime.
They do it in this one because she sees Heather's eye somewhere, and we cut back.
And it's like they do this in the next episode. I know they do.
Yes.
And then in one or two others, and it's like why? Like are they had Moffat or somebody in the studios
lost so much
faith in the audience that we need to be stooped to reminding what we had literally just seen with our eyes.
5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It is weird. It is a weird choice for this series. Luckily, it doesn't stick around too long. It's like these first 3, and then they do it near the end, maybe a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, that's the pilot. Next, we get Bill's first proper adventure in Smile. I was not smiling while watching.
That's very true. This episode should be retitled "Frown."
This is bad.
It's just about a space colony that uses micro robot things called the Vardis, and don't worry, I got it in the notes. And skeleton crew,
Yeah,
the
that's
Vardy.
hilarious.
It's supposed to be utopia, and if the people don't smile, they have patches that always convey their emotions. If the people don't smile, the Vardys kill them for some reason.
Yeah, because they're programmed to accommodate the arrivees and to make sure they're always happy. And basically, like the programming has evolved or something. So now uh, they like have to be happy all the time, and now they're becoming like semi-sentient until the doctor like kills off the whole race or something at the end.
Yeah, I don't really care about this episode. I don't care about the plot. The only thing I did care about is kind of like the interesting reoccurring bit they use with Nardole, who's kind of like the doctor's assistant and caretaker.
Yeah.
Also,
Like Butler
rhetorically,
almost.
like in a literary way, he's the comic relief, but in the actual storyline plot, he's like the assistant.
Yeah.
And he's trying to hold the doctor to this self-made promise that he has to stay on Earth and like guard the vault
For 1,000 years.
Yeah, but that's all I cared about. I didn't care when he took Bill to this planet.
Yeah, this is the introduction of the real series arc, which is they're gonna put the kettle
They're gonna put
on.
the kettle on. They're gonna pop back in time.
kettle's
Yeah,
on, yeah.
exactly.
For whatever reason, this series is just obsessed with like putting tea kettles on. It's like every episode, someone's brewing tea.
They'd probably done that so many times throughout the entire show.
We were just so
that
bored that
yeah,
we noticed it now.
yeah, because it's like that's a British thing, and they like love self-referencing themselves in that. It's a British thing.
I remember we saw the doctor was like, "Where's the skeleton crew?" And then it opened up the box of their bones. I'm like,
It's good.
"There's the skeleton."
It's good.
Crew. And then 5 seconds later, he's like, "There's the skeleton crew."
It's good. It's good. It's a good bit
Uh,
because they're using their bones, calcium as fertilizer.
yep.
Ooh.
I don't have a whole lot to say. Notes time, I guess.
Yep.
All right. Skeleton crew. There it is.
Yep.
Terrorism. It's back.
Oh yeah, the doctor literally like once he finds out it's a death trap, he wants to take Bill
And blow it up.
Yeah, he wants to put Bill back in the TARDIS, and he's like, "I'm gonna go blow it up."
I don't know what this means. Lesbian door.
Somebody said something that sounded like that
Probably.
because of their accent.
The Home Depot theme. Here it is. Here it is. Farties. The
Oh,
farties.
Vardies, more like farties.
And then Magic Haddock. He tells another like discount shepherd's boy story about the Magic Haddock, and he wished that the
His
sun
wishes
would,
never happened. Yeah, wishes did bad things, so he used his third one to make them ever happen. I don't fucking. How does that even apply to like the solution that happened? Because the Vardis, he solves it by wiping their memories,
Yeah.
and now they're kind of like an independent species.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And the interesting idea they have in this episode, I think, is that they make up the building as well.
right,
That's kind of cool.
but I guess I mean I don't know. By the time he got around to saying it, I was just like, whatever.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was a bit of a slog.
The only note I have that you haven't basically also had is Facebook.
It's about Facebook.
Because Bill says
'Cause
they
Bill is
speak
Facebook.
in emoji.
Yeah. And the doctor says, "I'm going to fucking kill you.
I wish.
I've got a gun in your mouth." This is a 3 out of 10. for
Same.
me.
Yeah.
So after a bit of a rough start, I think we both like the next one.
Yeah.
A fair amount. This is Thin Nice.
Well, it's better. It's more of an uptick.
Yeah.
More of a steady uptick for the rest, and then it kind of falls off near the end. But
Yeah, this
for me, at least.
This is a Victorian snowy London episode, which I usually at least
the last
enjoy
time the
just-
Thames was frozen over, apparently.
Yeah, just because I like that aesthetic. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I know you don't like Unquiet Dead, but I think it's not great, but I can watch it because I like the aesthetic.
Okay.
Same with like Clara the Snowman. They've done this a couple times.
Yeah.
I think this is probably one of the better ones.
Victorian era ones.
Snowy Victorian London.
Yeah, I guess they do. Yeah, you're right.
They
It's
really
not
do,
just
yeah.
Victorian. It's like, yeah, of course they do Victorian era, but it's also they associate it with snow. I didn't. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
So major flaw with this episode right off the bat It is Shakespeare Code with Martha, but for Bill.
A little bit.
And I mean, not even a little bit. They come out, and the first thing she says is like, "Aren't they gonna be racist to me? What if I step on a butterfly?"
Yep.
Which is word for word what Martha says in Shakespeare
Well, she's
Code.
like, what about the butterfly effect? And he's like, don't step on any butterflies.
Which is the same thing.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because remember, we were like, "Holy shit, he's so fucking mean to Martha." He's like, "Yeah, I bet she stepped on a fucking butterfly," or whatever he says to her. He like snaps at her in that moment.
I
Tennant
don't.
does.
No, I remember him just saying, "Don't." Well, then don't step on any butterflies.
I don't know. He's like really mean to her in that episode, but
I don't remember that at all. I don't remember him being mean. I remember us acknowledging that Capaldi here is being like a major hypocrite because the doctor's just being a major hypocrite because it's like he's always talking about how like fixed points in time,
right.
But I guess but it's most of the time it's fine because time heals itself or whatever.
Yeah. But like they reuse that word for word, and as we mentioned, we'll kind of get more Martha reuse later on with Bill, and so I think.
But you know what? This is also ends up being a reuse of narrative wise and like character wise is Beast Below.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So it's kind of a synthesis of just things we've seen. I feel like.
Right. I do think that's where Bill is let down a little bit writing wise, is that they do reuse so much stuff rather than taking her in like a newer direction. And even her Cyberman
they
thing
do
at the end is very much like Danny Pink.
She's a lesbian, and that's it. And that's all you. That's the only original thing you have to do. That's sufficient.
Yeah, that's fair.
I guess the other thing she has is like her mom's dead, but
yeah, that's a big character point. And I do like her questioning and kind of like meta poking that she does sometimes. I think they could have leaned into it way more though.
She does have the first and probably one of the only bits of interaction between her and the doctor in this episode that I liked actually between them is she's like, how many people have you like there's something under the ice and it's taking people and like somebody died right in front of her and they just straight up killed a kid in this episode, didn't they? Yeah. Oh my lord. Wow. Yeah. He didn't even like come back or anything. Yeah. Anyways, she's like, how many people have you, because the doctor moves on right away. He's like, he in fact, he moves on so fast. Yeah. The kid that gets sucked under the ice was holding his screwdriver and he grabs it and
kid's dying.
And he's just like, just brushing it off. Doesn't care, but he moves on right away. And she's like, she's in shock. How many people have you seen die? He's like, I can't remember. She's like, have you ever killed anyone? He's like avoiding.
Yeah.
And she's like, how many? And he doesn't have an answer for that either.
I don't know.
So that was a good bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was probably one of the bigger highlights of the episode. We finally get a sea monster, which is cool. I think it could have been used a little better, but that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were trying to make it look as good as possible, and with the budget, with their CGI animation budget or whatever, they kept it to a minimum.
Yeah.
And then there was like little sea monster baby fishes that were practical.
Yeah.
Or I mean, they had dead practical versions, which was cool looking.
The trickster fisherman pulled out one of the practical ones. And I like this setting. The fair is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The ice and all that. Victorian London it looks really great.
I think so.
And then our bad guy in this is mustache twirling racist capitalist man.
Evil East India Trading Company type dude.
Who is very over the top, but I think it's corny and funny enough that it's fine.
Yeah. They make a thing out of it by giving Capaldi one of his speeches about it, like, the value of human life is not how productive or industrial or whatever. It's it's gauged by how much you value on like on human life, whatever.
It's like the degree of measuring the success of a society.
Yeah.
And that was okay.
But it's so I could get into it, but it would be kind of broaching political nonsense.
Yeah, I don't. It's interesting because The Doctor is a really interesting character because he does kind of go back and forth on this.
Yeah.
Where he'll be like,
it's
life's so important.
the
and then
reason
he'll
he
just,
goes
like,
back
kill
and
someone.
the reason he goes back and forth is because the writers are there behind him trying to make a point through him.
Right.
And then but at the same time, if he's supposed to be a believable character who travels through time, he needs to have a extreme level of ambivalence
Yeah.
towards many of like history's ills, things that we now
Right, 'cause
see
he
as below
can't
us.
change most, yeah.
Exactly. It's like
And
that's
he says
just
that in a lot of episodes.
exactly. But of course at times it just completely gets flipped on its head because it's the writer trying to give some deep message.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a horrible thing, but it is
Right.
kind of interesting to point out that inconsistencies. I like when the bad guy tries to blow up his dynamite and it doesn't work. He's like got the big dynamite thing. He's like, ah!
It does. Yeah, that was goofy looking. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. This is very Charles Dickens because it's like snowy Victorian London with poor children being exploited.
Yeah, that's Charles Dickens.
That's him. I don't think I have a whole lot. I'll probably just pull out the notes unless you got anything.
No.
Now that's a cold open. That's a David original line right there.
Oh yeah, not the women ghosts are scarier when they're hot.
That's also you, yeah.
Yeah.
Harry Potter porn? I don't know what that means.
What the
I
fuck?
don't know what that, followed by used condom. Followed by Dick In's story. Followed by, as we mentioned earlier, flashback / dumbed down.
Mm-hmm.
Scooby Doo. This creature. Oh my god, that's Mark Gatiss. I don't know what that's in reference to, but
I don't know, maybe the villain.
Kill Bill and Rainbow Connection.
I had something about his value of life speech. Also that this is Beast Below.
Yeah.
And we get the great Doctor quote in this one. Only idiots have all the answers.
So true, Doctor. Really makes us think. This is a 6 out of 10 for me. I thought it was pretty good.
It was a 5 or a 6. I can't really decide.
Yeah, I liked it. I enjoyed it while watching.
Yeah, I think it kind of brought us back down to sanity after the last 3.
Yeah.
But and it does get better actually. The next one I'd say is but then after that we get a string of pretty decent episodes.
Yeah. So our next episode is Knock Knock. I like the concept of this because Doctor Who hasn't, as far as I can remember, besides maybe like Ghostlight from what is that, the 7th Doctor? But they don't really do haunted house stories. And so it's kind
they
of,
should do that more.
It's kind of interesting to see one. I like the opening sequence of this where they're going about and trying to find any place to live, and it's just the British housing market. It's a funny joke.
So true. It's just any metropolitan housing market.
Yeah. And then they get offered by a spooky old man a nice castle-like place to stay, and
he was corny, but he was the scary landlord who is clearly like killing them was corny, like the way he was written, but he acted it to like the absolute best of his ability.
He did. He's very
he like pulled it off as perfectly as you'd want him to.
He's very B-movie Bela Lugosi.
He's very Scooby-Doo scary.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo scary man.
Yeah. So Bill and her friends move into here. Then the Doctor shows up to help her move, and he's like befriending all her.
Yeah, I like how they all like him, and he's like, "See, I'm good at making friends."
That was funny. I enjoyed that. I liked his rapport with all of them.
Yeah.
And then the house starts eating people. Essentially, there's bugs that.
It ends up being the wood is made out of alien bugs, and I thought that was such a weird turn. It kind of dropped things off a bit for me.
I agree.
Because it's just so blase.
Yeah,
It's just
no,
kind of a really uninteresting at that point. Because before it was like, oh, what's causing this? How can the house eat people?
yeah.
And
I would have liked it better if it was more like the house and not these weird
the
little
movie
bugs.
House,
It was Monster House.
Monster House.
Yeah. And actually, funny thing, Ghostlight, the last haunted house episode I can think of, is also about alien bugs.
Was that written by that Classic Who lady?
No,
Because this was written.
close to,
This was
actually.
written by a Classic Who writer apparently.
No, this the horrible one's wrdon't by a classic Who writer.
I thought it was Knock
Years
Knock.
of Light is.
Oh, you're okay. You're right.
I don't have a whole lot to say on these.
Justice once,
there's
everyone
like-
lives.
Yeah, true. They bring back everyone at the end except for all those poor people who died beforehand.
Right. Because he's doing the landlord's doing this for decades and every 20 years or something to keep his mother alive,
Yeah.
who we thought was his daughter, but she just lost her memory because she's got this weird condition that makes her look like she's made of wood, and fucking the bugs are keeping her alive by eating people. I still don't even get how it translates.
It was a little bizarre.
And then she controls them, and that's how she saves everyone and stops this. And
Yep.
the doctor has one other line in there that I like, where he's like, he's talking to them, trying to get them to stop, the son and mother.
Yeah.
And he says to the mother, who's been kept in this house for decades, both of them really, because he has to care for her. And he's like, and there's like, they're near the campus, and there's fireworks going off, and he's like, see, that's what life should be: new friends and fireworks. But anyway, I just thought that was a good line.
Yeah, and it was a good little point he was making too. I only have one note on this one, and it's "I'm a celebrity, get me out of here."
Yeah, we still don't know what it means.
This is a 6 out of 10 for me.
Oh wow!
I thought it was okay. I think the turn they took was stupid, and if they took it in a different direction, I probably would have liked it a little more.
Yeah, if the monster was more compelling. I mean, I'm fine with the whole mother-son thing, but if it wasn't just like bugs.
Yeah.
I gave it a 5. Knock, knock.
No,
More
no.
like cock. And then another classic doctor line. No one ever just does anything.
How does he have so much knowledge? How does one person have so much knowledge?
That's what you get when you live 4.5 billion years.
So next we get the only Jaima Matheson episode from this season. He has written a lot of the bangers from the past couple of seasons, and he is back with Oxygen.
This might be my second favorite.
So at first, I think at the preview, we were like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Because it's a base under siege in space with zombies.
I know, because we were immediately like, come on.
But it turns out to be pretty interesting, fairly well done, and not quite something we've seen before. So the doctor arrives on a base that has requested help. Bill is like, I want to go here in space. He's like, that's boring. We're going here.
Where are we going to where we're going to most likely die?
And so they land, and there's a zombie first, so they blow out the airlock, and then they realize that air you have to purchase here. They're selling Oxygen, the company that makes these suits that's running this.
And the
base.
zombies are really just dead people in the suits. The suits are doing all the malintent.
The suits have been hacked, and their mission is to eliminate the human matter.
And it's revealed that it's like that was the company doing that itself, because they figured they could cut off, they could cut the bottom line by making just everything automated with the suits.
Yep, exactly. Take away.
I mean, the theme that what's it called? Like predatory capitalism in space. It's like it's fine. You could definitely do this theme even better than they did.
They hammer it in a little like goofily.
Too on the nose. Yeah. But there were other pieces of this episode that I really enjoyed. For one, in all the moments that there's like serious conversations happening, there's no music.
Yes.
There's no backtrack.
That's common this season.
It actually, and they do it more than once this season, and it actually helps me pay attention. It makes me focus on their words more, and like the the seriousness of the scene. Because when you're just constantly playing epic or dreary or scary music, it's like I can't focus. My eyes glaze over.
Right.
So
or the stupid violins or something.
yeah, I know, and so that was something I noticed that was really nice. Some of the practical like mask makeup effects of the dead corpses was pretty good.
Some of those looked really good.
The episode opens actually with a a relevant I don't know what literary device it would be, but it's the doctor. It's like it's not a red herring, but the doctor. It's one of his lectures at the college before they leave, and he's talking about what happens to the body when you're exposed to it's what happens to the human body when you're exposed to the vacuum of space. So that of course inevitably happens. They have to use the suits to survive and get around on the station.
Yep.
But Bill's is malfunctioning, and they have to get from one part of the station to another by walking out on the surface of the station, and Bill's helmet's going to be down, and they can get there in like 90 seconds or whatever, 120 seconds, but it's like being exposed to that, is incredibly dangerous. Yeah. And so it's like we got the really detailed, in-depth explanation from the doctor at the beginning about like what would happen, and I really appreciate that they didn't flash back to that.
Right.
This is
kind of where it stops.
This is where this was written by a competent person. And so they make it to the other side. Bill makes it. She loses consciousness, but she wakes up again on the other side, and she finds out she survived because the doctor swapped helmets with her at some point during the trek. And he goes blind.
Yep.
And it's like, man, the Capaldi doctor really gets beat up.
He's like, he's literally Marfa.
Like he's
Dr. Marfa.
Yeah, this is one of the few times we get to see the doctor actually maimed. One of the other more famous times is in Heaven Sent when it's, and it's also Capaldi.
Yeah.
But this just adds more mortality to the doctor. And makes it feel like there's weight and consequence to his decisions, to his riskiness. For once, it makes this episode become instantly more visceral.
Yeah,
that it's like that they'd crank it to that level. That the doctor is literally blind now, and he's able to navigate semi-functionally because he's got his like sonic sunglasses and everything. And so it's like at this point for the rest of the time they're on the station, he doesn't have them. But anyway, I thought that added some stakes.
We forgot to mention there is a bit of a goofy cold open where the lady's microphone's broken and they're repairing the ship. Mm-hmm. She's like, I can't wait to tell you that I want you to have my baby.
Yeah.
And then she just dies.
Yeah, no, I think you said we were like distraught by the opening.
Right.
But but of course by everything I'm explaining it ends up being a pretty good episode.
It does, yeah. I think I had a couple of other things to talk about with this one.
I love at the end of the episode, we think like they get out and they get off the station, and and we think that Nardole has fixed his blindness, because the TARDIS, it's magic and can fix anything. But
I can't see anything, Nardole.
I'll never see it. It's like Nardole's continuously telling him to look at him after Bill left, and he's like, I can't look at you, Nardole. Can't you? It's like, don't you understand?
Still blind.
I'll never see anything again. It was really dramatic, but I liked it.
Yeah, and also
the doctor wanted to blow up the station and kill all of them.
That was his plan to survive, and it worked.
Yeah.
And also, I had briefly mentioned this, but yeah, we talked about Capaldi is literally the Marfa
punching bag
doctors.
Yeah.
Because he just gets shafted with not only like quality of stories often, but
they abuse him physically the most. Most other doctors, when they get, I mentioned this last podcast, like they get electrocuted or laser, just stuff that doesn't feel very tangible. Yeah. This doctor literally gets like burned,
blinded.
Yeah, it's
killed for 4 billion years.
Yeah, punching his hand into a diamond wall.
Yeah, I guess I'll go to the notes.
Yeah, sorry I kind of said everything that was good about this episode.
No,
I just, it was a good one.
I'm sure this won't be horribly boring. That's my first note. Yeah. Jamie Asserson, the Blue Balls group, and they're fighting the Suits. My favorite.
Yeah,
joke
they're
of the
fighting the
episode,
Suits.
They use
Yeah,
the
good.
literary device of metonymy to refer to the corporate businessmen as suits.
Oh, right.
Actually, is that synecdoche? Who cares? No, that's metonymy. Okay.
What was the thing we looked up this season where it's like you name? There's a
still got
name
it,
for
I still
the.
got it, hold
Okay,
on.
okay. It's when you name a character like basically after their trait.
Yes, and it's called an aptronym.
Aptronym.
You want to read your notes first?
I don't really have anything I didn't mention.
Okay.
Because I didn't have anything stupid. it was just.
I only have stupid things.
Yeah, because you're stupid.
Hey, only idiots have all the answers.
So true. I originally put 7, but I think looking back, I'd give it an 8.
Well, okay. I'm
Yeah.
gonna give this one a 7.
Okay.
I liked it. My biggest complaint is that they do rub it in.
The theme about
writing-wise.
anti-capitalism or whatever.
Yeah, anti like corporate capitalism,
Right.
where the Doctor has that line like, and that's the end of capitalism in space.
Yeah.
Time for humanity to move on to another mistake.
Right. Yeah.
You're like, okay, I get it, but you're hammering it a little
Yeah.
hard.
It was a little. Yeah, they went a little too.
I appreciate the theme because we don't.
It
wanna
could
buy
just be
oxygen,
done. It
but-
can just be done a lot.
Yes,
m-
it could have been
better.
a little more subtle, and that's something interesting about this series. For me, I feel like obviously Doctor Who's always political,
Mhm.
but I feel like this series it shines through a lot more, and I don't know if that's just because the writing is way more on the head, or like way more visible,
Yeah.
or if they just leaned more into political stories this series. I'm not sure. I don't know if you have a thought on that. I guess we can come back.
I
later
think it's
to-
a victim of the era. It's just everything. It's like again, everything's always been political.
Yeah,
all
always.
media is political.
and
But
Doctor Who's always been like very
yeah,
blatantly
definitely.
political, yeah.
But in that, I would say the more the more early New Who, it was trying to be more subtle or more tactful at times. At least some of the writers were. And some were
Mark
not.
Gatiss
Mark
comes to mind,
Gatiss,
yeah.
not so much. But and then it was more focused on just like kind of transcendent messages,
Yeah.
just about like love or friendship or loyalty, just things like that, rather than politics itself.
Yeah. It does kind of shift.
And this was what 2016, 2017.
2017, yeah.
So the world,
Was way more
is becoming.
polarized and political.
Yeah, and I'd say it hasn't slowed down. At the point of 2016, from some unnamed political
They say this, we get
events.
demonetized,
Yeah, from some random candidate running and winning. Anyway, it's like everything became just dialed up to an 11 because there is a very progressive left-leaning presence in pop culture and pop media. Like there's nothing controversial about saying that.
Yeah.
So all these people, I feel like some of the writers feel activated and emboldened by that.
Yeah. Maybe.
So it becomes less subtle. Yeah.
And that's something interesting too. I think my other biggest problem with the episode is like I totally agree with the message of it, but it feels kind of hypocritical coming from a big studio like the
True.
BBC. But whatever.
Yeah.
So up next we get a whiplash, weird, pretty good episode.
Yeah.
Extremis.
Yeah.
This is the Simulacrum episode. It's kind of the first part of a 3-parter almost.
Yeah, it's
Sort of.
Yeah, I mean it's deeply connected to the next two, but you might not consider it a 3-parter.
Right. Yeah. So this is such a bizarre episode. It starts with the Pope showing up to the Doctor, and he's like, "There's this book that if you read it, you kill
The
yourself."
Veritas. Yeah, they've had plenty of Vatican officials working on it, and they've all killed themselves. So it's like we get that cosmic horror very early on, which is intriguing. But also, I was still floored like halfway through the episode that he's just like they just acknowledged the Vatican, and he's just like working with them.
Yeah, he's like working undercover with the Vatican.
Because Doctor Who very rarely gets religious, and you could I wouldn't even necessarily say this is religious, but it's just like it is bizarre.
It at least like acknowledges part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's super interesting and kind of weird for Doctor Who. And then the Pope gets in the TARDIS, and they go to Bill's place, and she's on like a date with some lady.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pope comes out. He's like, "Come with us."
Yeah, it's a good joke.
It's very funny. It's very strange. Then they go to the Vatican. They go to the heretical archive
Yeah,
of the Vatican.
they keep a library of all the banned books, and they even reference. They're like, "Oh, I see Harry Potter." Yeah.
And then a portal opens up, and a monk man takes away one of the cardinals.
Yeah, they're scary monk men. The Doctor is still blind, so this
Yep.
is when he's using his sonic sunglasses, which I think this is the time they get the most practical use,
Probably the
and it's
only
like,
time.
yeah, it actually works out, but he can't like he can only see like structures and dimensions of things like sonar,
Or
like
see that a person's there. And
right, but just
they're breathing. They're male.
not exactly who they are. They even use that. It's like it reads their BPM or whatever, and
That's a question mark.
yeah, and then somebody offs themselves, and then it like drops to 0.
Yep.
So he's trying to read this Veritas, and he's using something we've never seen before, where it's like he borrows something from his future, which is eyesight, but it's like the universe needs to balance itself out, so he'll be sacrificing another thing later.
Right.
I don't remember if this ever gets like brought up again.
I don't really think it
does. It's the fact that his next regeneration is that's what it is. That's what he
is, yeah. I don't. Maybe Moffat would have resolved it if he stayed on. I doubt Chibnall will ever acknowledge that ever.
It was just a really quick, short piece of exposition that I actually found interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, he regains his eyesight, and the scary monks are there, and fucking Bill and Nardole. And Bill and Nardole went into one of the portals.
And they're inside this weird matrix projection room
where they like can go to some different major locations on Earth, like the Pentagon.
They go to the Pentagon first, and she's like, "Do you have clearance to be here?" And then they go to CERN.
Mm-hmm.
And all the CERN scientists have like a countdown. They're like, "We're gonna kill us!"
Yeah, because they were all emailed to Veritas, and that's how the Doctor reads it, because he reads it on the laptop.
The table.
Yeah, they have big goofy dynamite instead of just like, what is CERN again?
European Center of Nuclear Research. It's where the Superhydron Collider is.
Okay, so if that's what CERN is, that's CERN's main thing is the collider. They don't need to show us the goofy. They could have just sabotaged the collider.
Yeah, they could have just collided certain particles and opened up.
All you literally need is the setting CERN and a countdown.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Yeah. You don't even need to show anything being done. Yeah. Like it reminded us of when the Master in season 3, and he references like Martha's Place, and they're watching it on television.
He turns around the TV and there's just
a big goofy dynamite. It's good.
Yeah.
And so they explain. Or they explain what something they read on the Veritas was these shadow tests.
Yes.
And
to see if you're an NPC essentially, like
right,
simulacrum. Right.
And they don't explain right then and there that it's a simulation, but it's like they just performed the test and we inferred like, okay, so life is a simulation. And so they conduct the test and it works, and they run back to the weird projection room, projection room.
Nardle's like, "I'm sorry, Bill.
Nardle goes behind the projections and disappears and dies.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And
then Bill goes into the White House. The president has shot himself.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson. Yeah,
he took a bunch of videos. Tucker Carlson.
You don't see his face, but it does kind of look like him from the side. And the doctor's there, like, and he read it.
Simulation, Bill. You're a simulation. And then the monks show up, and they're like, "You think you can beat us? We've projected all of human history." And he's like, I'm gonna email myself.
Yeah, I don't really get how he's able to email himself in like the real world if like all of reality is a simulation. How
Basically, it's hooked into a computer, right? That's how they're simulating it.
okay.
So just being a subnet program, he is able to access the email and just send him an email with the recording that he had on the Sonic glasses.
So it's like capturing a video game.
Yeah.
It's like capturing gameplay
Yeah.
and like
it's
whatever.
cool.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting plot because it's not just like the reason reality is a simulation is because these monks are collecting data
Yep.
on like all the possible ways they can come to control the earth.
Yes.
So I thought that makes it kind of unique and interesting.
Yeah, all the faults of humanity, all the best ways to take over and to
Even the Doctor,
Yes.
like yeah, even his
All the
involvement
threats,
in
yeah.
Earth, yeah. So I think this is a good episode. But I think its kind of weaker point is it's juxtaposed between all these intermittent scenes. There's like kind of two threads going. This is where we get to see what happened to Missy. Missy?
shoot,
Yeah,
that
this is Missy shows up in this episode. We get to see
Wait, really?
what happened. Yeah, this is the one where they just acknowledge that it's her in the vault.
I
So
thought it was the next one.
no, I'm reading the. Yeah, no, it's this one.
Really? Okay.
Yep. Because the next one is the pyramid the whole time, and then the lie of the land.
No, because doesn't the pyramid at the end of time open, and we think he's being executed for something? No, you're right.
It all happens.
This one does open.
Yeah, all of the yeah.
Right, it is.
I think that's kind of the weaker point of this. I don't mind them showing us that. I mean, that's like important or whatever. But they should have just showed all of it to us at the
Instead of
beginning.
this, like, weird, cuts.
Yeah, cuts back and forth, like jumping in time. It's like it was because it was harder to follow that. It was just something about how like the Doctor's he's there to execute Missy because she's evil. She's a prisoner and
someone has her in prison for whatever.
Some death execution planet.
Yeah.
And
the death data collection planet.
And they're like, after we kill her, you've taken an oath to watch her body for 1,000 years. But of course, he rigs the execution. It's just like a square, and you get electrocuted.
Yeah.
And he rigs it, and she lives, and he's like, I only said I'd watch her body for 1,000 years. I didn't say whether or not she'd be alive.
Right.
So this is the start of kind of like, okay, now we know it's in the vault, and what we understand is the Doctor is kind of trying to like rehabilitate her.
Yep.
So I think that's interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of the turning point for this series.
Yeah. But just like for pacing in this episode, it would have been better if they just like did that at the beginning, or they just like did half of all of it and then the other half at the end or something.
Yeah.
Instead of just like cutting every now and then.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'll just go to the notes. That's kind of this episode. I only have one note for this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's Moby Dick. Because the Doctor was
he dunks on Moby Dick.
Made me sad.
Like, just get to the bloody whale already.
Made me sad. Your notes?
I don't have any.
All right. This is an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I have a 7 here, but I might give it an 8 too.
Yeah, I quite like this. one. And then we get the first real part of this, like mini mid-season finale thing, which is, what is it called? The Pyramid at the End of Time or something?
Pyramid at the End of the World.
Whatever.
Peter Harness.
I think
he's in the notes.
I think one of my notes is that they should have titled this 3 Minutes to Midnight.
Yeah.
I think that would be
because they talk about the whole doomsday thing. So there's this mysterious pyramid in, where was it?
Turkmenistan. It's in Turkmenistan.
If you say so. Somewhere in the Middle East. And so like the
not
three.
not quite the Middle East, but yeah.
Okay. one of those.
Not even close.
One of
actually.
those places. Where is it? Where's that?
It's right below Kazakhstan.
Okay. Well,
probably
as long as it has a stan,
it's probably
it's
like
Middle East in
Russia.
my book.
It's probably like Russia.
The three world superpower, or the three, yeah, basically the three world superpowers
much,
are
yeah.
like,
The three biggest armies, as they say.
right. So it's China, America, and Russia, and they're all like, what's going on? And the doctor's there to peacekeep, and
He's the president of the world. We get the presidential plane again for a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, and
Doesn't
that's
get shut down for once.
yeah, true. And is this the one? This is the one where we are getting also an intermittent.
With the midget.
An intermittent location of some research lab for biohazards or whatever, and or they end up making a biohazard.
Yeah, I think it's for biological plant growth or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Anyway,
And we get the weird like glass breaking cuts occasionally.
yeah, that was bizarre. Doctor shows up. He's there to figure out what's going on, and it's the monks inside the pyramid.
Yep.
And they're like, we have every possible threat of the Earth's future and its past, and they're there to take control of the world because they know the world's about to end.
Yep.
Or they're,
And only they can stop it.
but they need consent.
Yep.
And their consent needs to be based on love. So we get, a few like world leaders dying, like the Japanese leader of the UN, and then like all three, commanding officers of the three largest armies dying, because the first one was like he was only consenting out of fear,
yeah.
and then the others was consenting out of strategy.
Yep.
And so Doctor's still blind, by the way, and
Yeah.
he's been hiding it from Bill. Nardal knows. I can't believe Bill never noticed, but it seemed kind of obvious at points, but whatever, because it kind of leads up to an interesting bit where
It does, yeah.
the Doctor's trying to find out what exactly is about to cause the end of the world so he can stop it, and he finds out that it's at this lab because that's what the monks are watching.
Right.
And
he shuts off all the cameras, and that's the one they turn back on.
yeah, the lab it accidentally creates a like super virulent instant death biohazard that turns you into a goofy CGI dirt effect.
Yeah, I thought it just killed all the food, like it was a famine thing, but then he got like turned into dust.
Yeah, he grabs a piece of it, a piece of the virus that turned the plant life into mud, and then he's like running out of the room,
Yeah.
and it just looks really goofy. It looks like he runs out of the building. I'm like, he's gonna go eat that in his car, but it just turns him into a pile of dirt.
Yeah. That is a little weird.
But anyway, Doctor shows up. He's trying to save the day, but he you know what his solution to save the day is?
Blow it up.
Blow it up. Terra's Doctor is back this season.
Yeah, basically, the famine biohazard produces ethanol, I think, in the air or something. So he lights a match and blows it up.
Right, or he's going to,
he's
and then
set off a bomb,
but he
yeah.
can't get out of where he planted the bomb because it needs a passcode to get out.
Yeah, and he can't see the numbers.
So he finally reveals that he's blind. To Bill, who he's communicating with. She's left out like the pyramid.
Yeah.
And so
Where's
that was
Where's the
in
pyramid?
the Middle East.
At the end of
At the end of the world. You're right. That is a horrible name. It should have been 3 minutes to midnight.
Yeah.
Because all the worlds, they also
Counting down.
counting down to when it's about to happen. And I thought the bit between Bill and the Doctor where he finally reveals to her that he's blind, and she she's like, "You're such an idiot. Why would you do that?" Basically, like Clara.
Right.
But I in the moment I wasn't bothered by it. I thought that was a good moment as well.
Yeah, and this is where we get something interesting from Bill, because she ends up consenting to the monks out of love, as you have to.
So that they can restore
yeah.
his sight. Yeah.
But basically, it shows that she does really care for the Doctor, and so that's kind of an interesting character thing for her. Like, she is willing to put humanity on the line to save this guy that she doesn't know horribly well, to be honest.
Yeah. It's so bizarre that it just felt it must have been something with the writing or the casting and the acting, or a mixture of all of the above, where we could see that happening with Martha, like halfway through her season,
Yep.
but it falls a little more. It's not that it falls flat. I still think she performed well. Bill did, but it's that it's less believable,
Yeah.
or less. It just feels less plausible.
It does kind of feel like it comes out of the blue a little.
Yeah. But then when we look back on those seasons, we're like, oh yeah, of course Martha like would blow up the world for him or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, Octahagen key. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's again like there we go. There's something else reused from Marfa, and then we'll get to it. The next episode is almost like Marfa's finale, just
Absolutely.
like character reuse.
Like the whole world is in tyranny, and she's
you're fighting against it on the
down.
cover,
Yeah.
building up an army and going to the base.
Anyway, this episode ends really strangely where he gets his sight back and he's like, Bill, what have you done? And then we get some weird flame effects in front of the camera.
It ends. And there's like a weird fade too, I think, isn't there?
There might have been, yeah.
Flame and like a weird overlay of something.
The flame effect was overlaid.
Maybe that's what it was, yeah. I don't know. You have anything else to say?
No, go ahead.
Japanese president,
Mm-hmm.
the president of the UN.
Yep.
This nice old Japanese man.
Yep.
This is our first Trump tally. I just have here in the notes, orange man.
The quote was, he's orange.
Yeah, there you go. Next note, tally 1. There you go. 3 minutes to midnight, again. Me and the boys. I think that refers to just the monks.
Oh yeah, they're like watching, staring at a pyramid.
Yeah, I like. We mentioned almost all the pyramids CGI, but the door looked like it was practical.
I think that's exactly what happened.
So
yeah,
that's good for them.
Yeah. I mean, at least they made the moving part. I know what it is. I know what that note is.
White is sus.
White is sus.
Pro-planet, pro-choice.
Slavery was a choice.
Dr. Terrorist returns. The return of Dr. Terrorist.
Yeah.
Would you care to read yours there?
Well, I have Among Us. And Peter Fartness. And that's it.
This is a 7 out of 10 for me. I enjoyed this episode.
I didn't even rate this one.
I don't think it's.
Yeah, I'd give it. I'd probably give it a 7. If I gave the last two an 8, then yeah, this would be.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a step down, but it's like the one time where they've done this political world espionage thing, and it's like actually works.
And it's actually interesting. Yeah. I think it especially helps that it's kind of banking off the intrigue of Extremis.
Of the monks and Extremis, yeah.
And they keep up, I mean, we have one more monk episode after this, but they keep up the mystery with the monks as they're just kind of this weird parasitic. They're just this parasitic species that goes around controlling planets through
changing
consent.
And having consent.
So that part is interesting. Even I thought in Extremis that the monks were actually just being puppeted themselves, because one of them in the White House scene has like a weird line where he's like, "We just do what they tell," or well, that's me. But yeah, well, they say something like that.
Yeah,
don't they?
I think so. I think this is the episode where Bill and no, never mind. Ignore me.
All right.
Our next episode is The Lie of the Land?
The Lie of the Land.
Okay. Again, like weird titles, but this is basically the Martha reuse, but it is kind of interesting. There's a bit of a whiplash upon the episode starting.
Yeah, we get it's a time jump, and now the monks control the world, and it's like a propaganda video where they show them all the monks in like old historic footage and things.
We were there when you crawled out of the mud.
Yeah. And it's the doctor who's narrating it, and you're like, what the heck? And then you see him at the end, and he's like doing this. He's like the minister of propaganda. Yeah. Well, he's Alex Jones when he secretly radicalizes the whole crew on his prison ship. Yeah.
Take this away. Take this away.
This episode's based.
So true.
That's all I will say. This episode is based. Monks erasing history and controlling the world. It's based, yeah.
Based, yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a bit of a like we're the underdogs. We need to go on a mission to save the world. I actually like the first half better.
I agree. I think the first
Once
half
they
was
do
better.
their like, once the prison ship ends, I think it's not as good.
Yeah, I would agree.
But yeah, Bill is like living in this world. It was like 4 or 6 months or something,
6 months.
and the monks have been controlling the world, and they're just tyrants or whatever. But you have to love them because they use these statues of themselves all over the earth to kind of like
Change the
fog your
history,
brain
yeah.
and make you think that they're benevolent leaders that have always been there.
Right, and we start because someone, I think our cold open or something is someone has like Shakespeare
Alex
or something
Jones,
in their
yeah.
house.
Yeah, they're
And they
Alex
break
Jones.
in. They're
No,
like,
it's some mom who like talks
she's
about how
like,
like it doesn't make any sense.
They've
Like,
only been here for a couple months.
yeah. And so Bill is starting to see these things, and she's starting to like wake up and be like,
Yeah.
"What the heck?" And the Narl finds her, and yeah, and so they go looking for the doctor who's on a prison ship, and they infiltrate it and get to him, and they do like a double fake out
They do.
where you think he's faking that he's part of,
Of the months. Yeah.
but then they really try to hammer it home that like he's not, he really is on the side of the monks because it's like the pragmatic thing to do.
Yeah, and he's like denouncing Bill. He's called the guards.
Yeah, because she says a code that they had established that we didn't know. They didn't establish it on screen, but like she name drops like, you know, we went to, we s- the
On the yeah, she talks about France. She's like, we went skating on the Seine River,
or something
or
like
the
that.
Seine, or whatever it's called.
But he's like, it was the River Thames.
Yeah.
That was a code word.
Yeah.
She was trying to confirm whether or not I'm really on her side still. And so he somehow knew that she would
Shoot him.
she would take this so poorly that she grabbed a guard's gun and shoots the doctor, and he even fakes regenerating.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Does
great job! And all the guards start clapping, and it's like, holy shit, that's the most traumatizing thing ever.
That was very funny.
It was based.
He had to do it to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then this is what I was thinking of. Then they go to see Missy, and it's like, have you seen the monks before? How do we stop them? She's like, Kill Bill.
So true.
And then they decide to go to the propaganda machine, which is a pyramid in London instead.
Of course.
It makes sense.
Oh, absolutely.
And they go inside, and Bill takes off the monk who's giving the propaganda and puts her own head in and projects her mom, and that.
Yeah, the major theme for Bill in this one is like how she holds on to the memory of her mom, even though her mom died when she was too young to remember, but she just sort of makes up her own version of her mom.
Which is something to mention. I think we forgot. I'm pretty sure it's from the pilot. Mm-hmm. She's like, I don't even have any pictures of my mom, and then the doctor sends her like a picture with him in the background with like a party hat on or something.
Yeah, you can see him taking the picture in the mirror.
Yeah.
It's all right.
I like this one.
Oh, yeah. I'm referring to the theme about her mom.
I like the design of the propaganda room and things like that. This is our second Donald Trump tally. He's on the.
Oh yeah, we see his face, and I swear to God, I recognize a lot of photos of Donald Trump. I swear to God, they cropped it, but they took a photo from his Twitter timeline where he's doing the thumbs up over the bowl of over the taco bowl, and it's like for Cinco de Mayo in like 2017 or whatever. It's just one of those classic Trump tweets. It's good stuff.
Yeah, what else? I don't know. I like a lot of this. I guess I'll just read my notes and you can interrupt me as I like. This, it's interesting that all these parts were written by someone else. Stephen Moffat wrote Extremis. Peter Fartness wrote 3 Minutes to Midnight. That's what I'm calling it. And Toby Whitehouse wrote this one.
What else did Toby Whitehouse do? Didn't he mostly do bad ones? I can't remember.
No, I got Toby Whitehouse wrong. He did Time Heist in Series 8.
Oh.
He wrote... what did he write in 9? I think he wrote Zygon and Version in 9.
He did School Reunion,
Yeah.
Vampires of Venice.
Yeah, that's a.
God Complex.
Oh.
Town Called Mercy.
Hey.
Under the Lake, Before the Flood,
That's what it was. Yeah.
and The Wide Land. So he had a really bad stinker, but the rest are pretty good.
Yeah, I think he was one of the ones that when we watched Series 7, remember all the shit writers got like their redemption arc?
Yeah.
Because Mark Gatiss got a Cold War, he
Yeah.
got a Town Called Mercy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good old White House.
Here's my notes. Bill's mom's track is good, apparently. I don't remember how it goes.
Yeah, me neither.
It's good. Alex Jones is the Doctor. Introducing Alex Jones as the Doctor. This is Gallifrey, my literal favorite Murray Gold track.
You would say that.
Trump Count 2,
Mm-hmm.
followed by Toby Whitehouse Bomb. Your notes, sir?
I just have based and pissy. Maybe more like pissy.
This is another 7 out of 10 for me. I quite like this one.
I gave it a 6. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as Extremis, but
I didn't enjoy it as much as Extremis. I liked it more than the last one, though. 3 minutes to glib glob.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't enjoy it as much as that one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So next, they've had a streak of too many good episodes, so
Mhm.
it's
Time to be.
open up the carbon freeze and take out Mark Gatiss.
No, please.
Would you care to tell us about the Empress of Mars?
I don't know. I don't even know how they end up here. They just do. They just show up on Mars. Oh yeah, there's a weird scene where they're at NASA, and NASA discovers this message on the surface of Mars that says "God save the Queen." So they travel back in time to figure out what that was.
Yeah.
And
yeah, they're like counting down a space program or something.
Yeah. And so they discover a bunch of colonial or imperial era
like
British soldiers. Yeah. On the moon or on the Mars on the Mars on the
Kill the Mars.
and we get the return of the Ice Warriors. There's one of them there.
Remember the last time we had the Ice Warriors when Mark Gatiss wrote a good episode?
And then he just had to. Yeah. He just had to come back. He had to double dip, and it sucks. And there's an ice warrior there helping them. I don't know. They helped him on his ship, and he told them there was shit. There was shit on Mars, and they went there, and there's not, and they're digging, and they discover the Empress.
Yep.
She starts killing them
because Jackknife or
and she.
Jack Guy or whatever.
Jackdaw.
Yeah, there you go.
I do like their dialogue actually, because it did feel a little authentic.
Yeah.
In their vernacular. But the Empress starts killing them, of course, because they're stupid humans and they're trigger happy.
She's kind of goofy.
Oh yeah, they have. Okay, so like she literally. Okay, so Bill's there and she's literally like, What do you think of the humans? I can't trust these males. It's like, okay, dude.
Very Gatiss moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only monster in this house.
Oh my God.
That man.
Just thinking of his face when he's writing this shit. God. Yeah.
I guess just notes. Yeah. This one's just not good.
Yeah.
I have. I forgot about this. Okay. I have Mark Goldblerist. Don't belong. We're British. Mark Grabgalist. Mork. Dork Gadkist. Mark Gapist. Holding up gun. And Dork Morkist.
Very good. I have and about to be bald, spelled BALL''D, because the Empress had a gun on her fucking arm that shot them and just turned them into this weird like ball.
Yeah.
Turned people into like it just crumpled their bodies into a ball. It's an interesting effect, but they did it like 15 times, so it's like what the hell.
This is a solid 2 out of 10 for me. There's a little something, like you mentioned, the vernacular is kind of interesting. there's like there's maybe something there.
There is what it most of all is lost opportunity. Their weird messaging that they went through was anti-imperialist, and then they had the weird like Empress like feminist commentary when they had an interesting character like the actual captain gets demoted by his
Right, 'cause
second in
he-
command
he's
because
hanged.
yeah, he was the only one that knew that he was a deserter.
Yep.
And the doctor literally hears this guy telling his sob story about how he's a coward in war, and the doctor could have done something with that because
Right.
that's like kind of his shtick. Is
is
like he
very
knows
much
what
his
war
thing,
is,
yeah.
and he knows what like being cowardly or not or being brave is about. So
Right.
it's like, but they just do nothing with it. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean that was like that defines a pretty big deal of the Doctor's arcs is this idea of
maybe
being
Gatiss
a
thought that was
soldier.
just too. It was just
too good
Yeah.
for this episode.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I have a 3 here, but you're right. I think it is a 2.
This was where we started dissociating again, and we're
Yep.
like, is this real? Are we watching this?
Is the TV even on? The Eaters of Light, written by a classic Who writer, apparently.
Yes, this is the first episode in New Who written by a classic Who writer. Even more interesting, it's like Nora something. I can't quite remember her name.
It is Rona Munro.
I flipped the letters. Even more interesting, she wrote Survival, which is Ace and Seventh's last episode and is the last episode of the original run of Doctor Who. So she wrote like the last episode before the revival. And it's okay. It's not great. It's really silly, stupid, but it's all right. This one, I would not describe as all right.
This one's a doozy.
Would you care to take us through this? What happens?
I don't even know. They're in Scotland, and there's these crows that are saying "doctor" or something, and then they go back in time, and it's when the 9th Legion of the Roman army
We're in Scotland.
were in Scotland to do their thing as Romans.
Do Roman stuff.
And then the local barbarians, well, as the Romans would refer to them, rightly so, are being resisted by the dirty Celts. And just kidding, I like both of them, but in real life, not in this episode.
Basically, the Celts open up a portal.
One of them does. A dragon dog that's killing the 9th Legion. It's killing the 9th. She's thinking to use it against them to drive them from the land, but fucking, and then Bill and Dogger get separated. Bill's in under the surface with the Romans, and they get to have a moment, and then they meet back up, and the Celts and the Romans want to kill each other. Doctor's like, wait, you have a common enemy. And then they lure the monster back into the portal, and the portal is like it's got weird time dilation, so like 2 seconds in there is like 2 days or something crazy. And fucking anyway, it's really bad. It's just filled with a bunch of shit lines and shit makeup and
poor acting.
Yeah,
boring as hell.
There's of course really bizarre out of place social commentary for the 300 AD, something like that. Probably before that, but yeah.
I think I'll just read the notes because this is just a shitter of an episode.
Yeah.
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother.
I will kill you, Fjolnir.
It's like someone was chanting that in the woods. Robert Eggers fucking stealing shit again.
So true. Stole from the best episode of Doctor Who ever.
Death by Scotland. Oh, I get it. You're just like Lycus Menace.
Bill explains to the Romans that she's gay, and she thinks it's going to be the most novel thing they've ever heard, the most bizarre, out of place thing. And they're like, "Oh, you're just like our black gay Roman over there." Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's something. And then my last one is Kate Bush Choir, because there's this like weird choir at one point, but
And the Romans and the Celts decide to team up to go into the portal to kill the monsters that are in there, so they
till
don't.
the end of time.
Yeah,
or whatever,
and the effect of them walking in there is
It's
so
so
bad. It's unbelievably bad. They don't even show the monster all that much,
No, they
so
don't.
I feel like they should have had enough budget to make it look a little better, but no.
Nope.
My notes, where are they? All I have is Sussus Among Us. That's it.
This is a 1 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Pretty solidly. This is one of the contenders for the worst episode we watched.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty strong contender, dare I say.
Yeah.
Then, anyhow, we get back to the main thrust of it, and they're going to let Missy go out on a mission to prove herself in another horrible title, The World Enough and Time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weird title.
Yeah. This episode opens... The opening loses me. I think it goes a little too long, but I do kind of like her coming out and being like, I'm Doctor Who.
Yeah. It's quirky, but it's whatever. I'm not as bothered with her as the way in here as the way she behaved in like her finale in 4 why do I keep saying 4 in 8?
She's much better in this series, I think.
Yeah. Because there's kind of like an actual in-depth conflict going on with her character there. Like, so I can excuse her being like quirky because it's like she's also like pissed because she's like she's being expected to change, and not be like a murderous psychopath.
Yeah. I like Capaldi's line there too. He's like, she's not Doctor Who, I'm Doctor Who.
And Bill's like, is that really your name?
He's like, no, I like it.
He's like, I like it. Yeah.
That was fun.
So the setting is really it grabs your attention.
It does, and I think this is I like this episode because something that Satan Pit didn't do, and perfectly fine with it not doing it, is explore that kind of idea of special relativity, but because that was so like unique and weird, and there was like weirdness.
Well, I wouldn't say it applies because they're on a spaceship that's doing reverse thrusters against the pull of a black hole.
Yep.
That's the setting, and the spaceship is a like world-building spaceship. It has like all of like a pretty significant fraction of humanity on it.
Ship,
exactly. It's 400 miles long.
Yes.
They literally said it's 400 miles long. I
Yep.
think that you wouldn't get much of the same time effect on the small station in Satan Pit. So
yeah, I guess the difference is Satan Pit.
But I'm not a scientist.
The planet was on the event horizon, so it's much closer. So the difference between space would be much more extreme.
Well, and plus it's called the Impossible Planet.
That's why I don't mind.
It's called because it's not even under the effect of it anyway. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But in this, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, it's 400 miles long, so they have a malfunction down on level 800 or something, and they didn't notice the black hole, so they send some of their crew down, like 5 people, and then it's been a day, and suddenly there's a million life signs down there because of special relativity. Years and decades have passed down there in a day, and we learn even later that the doctor spends 50 seconds away before he gets in the elevator from Bill, and it's like a couple years past.
10 years.
Yeah.
She waited for him for 10 years. So yeah, the conflict starts by these strange beings from the bottom of the ship.
Beings that we don't recognize.
Not at all. These beings coming up from the bottom of the ship to the top where time is like normal or whatever.
Yeah.
Whenever they detect human life, they come up there to take the human, and it's Bill and one of the dudes.
We have a crazy cold open because he just fucking
blows
her stomach out.
The only like person on the top of the ship who's like a janitor is like, he knows about the weird things that take the human life, and he's all freaked out, and then he accidentally shoots Bill, and she's just got a big gaping cindering hole in her, and it's like, wow, we did it, we killed Bill.
We killed, I think that's in the notes.
And the beings take her, and they're like, we will fix her or whatever, so the doctor just lets
you can fix her!
So they take like 50 seconds to like think and explain special relativity, and then go down after her, but it's been 10 years for her.
Exactly. Yeah. I like the cut there because we get like the pan down and we just see Bill's stomach has been blown out, and then we get a flashback cut, and she's like, "It's a horrible idea to take Missy out. You're gonna get me killed." He's like, yeah, maybe. I'm not gonna try to not get you. He's like joking with her. Damn, that's rough.
Well, one of our major problems with this was that Missy or Bill is through the writer's volition is given this kind of like wariness around Missy when Bill really doesn't actually have any context.
Right.
Like, of course, like she would trust that the doctor says like, oh, she's dangerous, but it's like she wouldn't have the same. It wouldn't be the same impact as another companion like Clara,
or Martha.
Yeah, who knows the master, and then Clara who knows Missy.
Yeah.
So it's like it would have been more impactful. They should have just kept Clara for another season, man. Just do it. Yeah.
No, that was one of our biggest problems because there was not enough emotional depth there. She was so worried. She's like, "You're just gonna kill everyone." It's like you don't know.
The writers literally had her say, "She scares me, Doctor. Yeah. Like really scares me." And it's like, no, she doesn't. You don't know anything.
But then we get a pretty interesting part of this episode. Basically, Bill is in the hospital. We get some really great horror sequences with the...
They even do the Mad Scientist soundtrack of the woo. It's like, yeah, it's good.
And then we get definitely not John Sim, guys. Definitely not John Sim.
I missed him.
Coming as a scary rat man who's gonna groom Bill.
Yeah, I mean he comes off as like an endearing character, and then
he does.
Of course,
I think he's really well written, especially for a Moffat character.
It's the master of disguise. It made me really confused about his timeline at first, but they fixed it by just like, oh, it's literally after. Yeah. It's literally after End of Time. Yep. So like you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
Because it felt too reminiscent of like what he does with. How the master like he regenerates into John Sim and then he's on that spaceship and then he turns them into like Toclafane and brings them back into Earth in the past. So it was so reminiscent that like my synapses like crossed in my brain and I like had no idea what timeline it was. So
you had a stroke.
Yeah, basically. But no, it's just after the last time we saw him.
Yep. And there's this whole like city on the spaceship that's like this worn down industrial.
And the
city.
reason for that was because John Sim was like lording over it, and then it falls apart, and he goes into hiding.
Yeah, because they like kicked him out, essentially ran him out of town, and so he's now in disguise.
And so a mad scientist comes up with the idea that humans must evolve faster, and
to get
be upgraded into these new things we've never seen before.
Don't look behind the curtain; you've never seen it before.
Yeah. It's Cybermen. He's turning them into Cybermen.
I do really like the patience and eventually the Mundasian type Cybermen that we get.
Pain.
Pain. Turns down the volume. Oh. Ugh.
Pain. Yeah. Kill me.
Kill me. Yeah.
That's us watching this show.
And I'm not sure if this is meant to be like the origin for Moondas, like the first time we meet the Cybermen on the 10th planet.
I like so what the Doctor does is how he explains it, which I think kind of helps the whole idea of the Cybermen in general, is that like Cybermen show up wherever there are humans, which makes a lot of sense.
And that's what happened in even kind of Classicu, because we first made them in the 10th planet, which is Moondas, and we made these Cybermen, maybe. I'm not sure.
But it makes sense that he says like they'll just show up wherever there are humans, because
then we meet them in Tomb of the Cybermen, which I can't remember the planet name. They say it in this episode. Anyways, but yeah, that is a kind of interesting idea that species are trying to upgrade and improve at all times and modify. Then they go down and John Sim takes off his mask after they've turned Bill into a Cyberman.
And Missy is helping the Doctor at first throughout this episode, but then you think she's turned on him at the end when the Master reveals himself, so she thinks she like has an out.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it is revealed that Bill has become a Cyberman.
Yep. I think what really holds this episode together for me is the horror aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of really good horror sets and sequences and
the time, the special relativity, of course.
Special relativity. don't know if you have anything else to say. I'll probably just.
No, I think you probably like this episode more than me, but
I almost guarantee.
but I like
do.
it more. But I still like it more than the second part.
Yeah. So is this Among Us? Is my first.
Of course.
I'm Doctor Who. Missy just did a dab.
Mm-hmm.
She says, "Don't be a bitch" at some point.
Oh yeah.
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 Sleep paralysis doctor. The Bill's like walking down the hallway.
Oh yeah.
He just appears and he's got like black eyes and he's floating. He's like, "Wait for me."
The doctor pulls a Vulcan move where he like before Bill's taken by the Cybermen, he like puts a subconscious message in her brain that will keep playing, and he says, "Wait for me." So she waits for him. Yeah.
And this is something I forgot to mention. I think I made fun of Stephen Moffat back in Girl in the Fireplace when he introduced that Vulcan mind grip ability that he's used a couple of times.
I don't think it's been overused.
It does happen. He does have like semi-telepathic in Classic Who, so I don't want to bash Stephen too much.
Right.
He does love to pay homage to Classic Who, so.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, throughout we've seen it crop up like probably 3 or 4 times in New Who.
Maybe a couple more, but yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not as like overbearing.
He wipes Donna's memory with it. He's Girl in the Fireplace. I think Matt Smith might have done it once. Capaldi maybe does it once or twice. Do you have any notes on this one?
No, I don't.
Well, for me, this might surprise you. This is an 8 out of 10 for me.
Wow.
I liked it.
I have a 6 down here, so I'll just trust that.
I think the first part was weaker for me because it felt very like the rest of the season, kind of this breakneck pace. There were these like way too many quips, and it was a little out of hand. But once it settled into its groove, I really enjoyed a lot of it.
You know, I definitely like the feel of like if you think about it long enough, what Bill goes through like is really horrifying and meaningful, but at the same time, I think they're trying a little too hard with the whole "wait for me" thing with the doctor. Like it's meaningful, but okay, so they drop the fact that she's been waiting for him for 10 years a couple of times, but it never like really hits me. It never like really feels like it. Like it feels like she was separated from him and she had to wait a long time, but it's like 10 years is a lot, and I feel like they could have like hit it home a little more with like how much she had to go through and wait. And like we do see her go through a lot, but
I think the problem, similar to how we've mentioned this with Bill before, how I feel, is they're reusing stuff again. Like we have the waiting from last series with the doctor and Clara.
Amy does that a lot.
Amy does that a lot.
Isn't the girl who waited?
Yeah,
isn't that
exactly.
like
almost the same thing? Yeah.
Isn't that was the one where she's in that weird planet, sanitized planet, right? We liked that episode. That's an underrated episode.
I really like that episode. Yeah. But also they reuse the Cyberman aspect of Danny from 2 seasons ago, and I think they do it better here because I really did not give a shit about Danny. I like at least sort of care about Bill in this, so it's a little more impactful.
I mean, I do end up feeling a little more bad for her than Danny. I didn't feel bad for Danny at all. That was just funny. But
yeah, I agree. And I do like what they do in the next episode more than what they did with Danny. So we'll, I guess we can get into that.
Yeah.
He's old, so the doctor falls.
Is the next episode, yeah.
I like my favorite aspect of this. Well, okay, I like a couple. Stephen Moffat, man. Until the spaceship comes up, I love the cold open of this, where they're just in like rural England fields, and there's just these horrifying scarecrows, and the kids are just like, "Oh, they're coming again." The parents got like
they're just shooting them. Yeah, this is an upper level of the ship, so the Cybermen are slowly making their way up to them because it's human life.
Yep. And I like that, and then the spaceship comes out, and it gets a little corny, and then we go into the sequence. Great cold open reminded me a lot of Family of Blood, Human Nature, with the scarecrows and just that kind of rural setting. Just the cold open did.
Right, and then we get into it and find out why at the end of the cold open, Cyber Bill is holding the doctor.
Yep.
So now he knows Bill's a Cyberman. He's captured by the two masters.
Yep.
And they're like deciding on how to kill him or whatever.
Yep.
And
It's a little cheesy.
the Cybermen are being like upgraded in real time, and like armies are being made like as they're up on the roof thinking of how to kill the Doctor. And the Cybermen are coming at them, and the masters are destroying them. Bill's just kind of there.
Yep.
Because she's special.
She's Bill.
Yeah. And Nardle's getting a spaceship for him to escape. And
I like the master's lines. Like he comes up first and he's like, "Let's go, he's dead," or whatever he says.
mm-hmm.
And
he told me and the Doctor told me he always hated you.
And Nardle's like, "That's not true," and then Missy comes up and she says the same thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of good.
And the Doctor he gets grabbed by her Cyberman and is electrocuted or whatever, and then he gets on the spaceship.
I think the strongest part of this episode for me is most of Bill's parts in it. I really like the choice they did, and it was probably to be less goofy, as you pointed out, but I do really
and also to give the actress genuine screen time.
I do really like the choice of having her see her as herself, and like sometimes the camera will shift and then she'll be the Cyberman.
When you need her to do more emotional things or scenes or lines, it's just Bill. It's just the actress. Right. And then at other times we do get to see it transition to her as in the full Cyberman garb.
Pearl Mackie, that's her name.
Pearl Mackie.
Came back to me. Yeah, and I did really like that, and I liked her kind of coping and dealing with that. I thought that for me was the strongest part of the episode. Aside from just the setting, I like me some rural England country people just hanging out. But that's just me.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember this episode.
I think the weakest part for me actually was probably the master stuff.
Oh, that's it. That's the part that's the stuff that I liked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I liked the some of it was corny, but I liked that, we're getting the culmination of like him trying to reconcile with Missy, and
she kisses him and he gets hard.
Yeah. But she's like good. She's being pulled by two forces between her former self, the Master, and the Doctor.
Yep.
And he gives them a speech that I thought was all right. I liked it better than some of the other
he's like
Capaldi speeches.
Best thing to die for, or whatever. Yeah.
He's like, I do it because it's right. He's like, not because it's hardly ever easy. He's like just explaining why he's staying and fighting for the humans that are there, about to be invaded by Cybermen, and they're about to bail and go back to the Master's TARDIS on a lower floor.
Yep.
And Missy does end up double crossing the Master so that she can help the Doctor, but the Master shoots her, and she's quote unquote dead. But I'm pretty sure the Master is not dead.
Yeah, Masters never did. Yeah, but that was an interesting thing that like her killing him causes him to regenerate into her.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was probably the only compelling scene for me. Even at the end when like the Doctor's all like war torn and dying, I still didn't really care as much.
And then we get a really weird ending, which we alluded to earlier, where Heather shows up and just saves Bill, the Doctor, and something.
Well, no, they leave the Doctor.
Do they?
Yeah, they leave the Doctor.
But they don't they take him to the TARDIS or something?
Oh, okay, yeah, they do. No, you're right. Yeah, they take him to the TARDIS, and then they leave him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heather comes back and is like, you can fly away with me now, because it's like,
you're dead.
I guess she just takes her consciousness, because like we see her Cyberman body like flop over. Yeah. Well, we see her Cyberman body flop over, and then it's just the actress the rest of the time.
Yeah.
And so she puts the Doctor on the TARDIS, and then they go and travel through space and time together. It's literally just Clara. It's literally just Clara.
Again, like there's something else they reused. That's Bill's problem. Is I think Moffat specifically, I think, was getting very tired.
Yeah.
And yeah. I'll probably just go to the notes here.
Mm-hmm.
Third tally, we get another Donald Trump reference.
Yeah, my note is Donald Trump is inevitable. That the Doctor says this. Hey, I don't know. He says like some things are inevitable, like this and that, and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now she's kill pots. Is that windmill important? Blows it up. Naruto's just making like pops.
Oh.
And then I have Night of the Hunter here because it reminded me of the 50s movie.
Oh. Mr. Sim is based because he says some like funny sexist jokes or whatever.
Oh yeah.
He's like, he's literally like, is everything in the future just women?
That's right. I forgot about
And
that.
of course, the doctor says we would hope so. Yeah, that's something the doctor would say. Totally.
Did he say that?
Yes,
Okay.
you missed it, but I caught it.
All right.
You gotta trust me on this.
So you really know it?
Donald Trump is inevitable.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is I think I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. It's definitely a pretty big step down from the last one for me. There's enough in this that I'm like, yeah, it's
A little too actiony.
Yeah.
I give it a 5.
And then we get Capaldi's Regeneration episode, our second Christmas episode for this series. This is Twice Upon a Time. So basically, Capaldi doesn't want to regenerate, so he's being stubborn and is just going to die because he's had enough. And I think it's a pretty one-to-one allegory between Moffat and the doctor there, where he's like, Absolutely. I've had enough, I want to go.
Yeah, totally. And so the TARDIS or something
The Fartis, yeah.
brings him, to the Arctic Circle?
Yeah, North Pole.
South Pole.
Is it? Yeah, it is.
Because it's Arctic, the Antarctic. Anyway, what was I saying? Apparently this is where the first Doctor goes when he's about to regenerate, and he has a conflict, an unseen conflict that wasn't a part of Classic Who that we get, and we get who's the actor that takes up the mantle?
David Fartis.
So true. I haven't watched Classic Who, but I thought he looked the part really well.
And he has the mannerisms.
Okay, that's good.
Well.
Yeah.
And even something interesting, I read this on the IMDb thing. He does like moments of Alzheimer's forgetting. That's how William Hartnell was filming that episode. He would like stumble and forget his lines.
Oh no.
But interesting fact. William Hartnell's Regeneration, which I think is the 4th episode of the 10th Planet, is lost. It's one of the lost episodes.
His regeneration episode?
It's gone.
Wow, that almost works perfectly then.
They only have his actual regeneration because it was aired on some other show on like the TV or something.
Man.
So it's kind of interesting. This one starts really cool with footage from the 10th Planet, and it pulls out, and then it's colorized. And you
get a reprisal, reproduction.
And that's good. I thought that was a really cool, kind of nice homage intro.
And so the rest of the kind of dichotomy in the episode is like the first Doctor doesn't want to regenerate, the 12th Doctor doesn't want to regenerate, and them coming to terms with that.
Yep.
So we get lots of funny bits of like the first Doctor being like, "What have you done to my TARDIS? Like what? Oh, you're the bigger, And then the other kind of sub-conflict of the episode, or the narrative, the driving plot of the episode, is there's a World War I commander who's taken out of the moment before his death to be downloaded to this weird...
Because the first Doctor wants to die, which would be an irreplaceable paradox. It would shatter the universe because none of the other Doctor stuff would happen. Mm-hmm. So basically the testimony group who takes people out and saves their memories before they die is extracting him, but then because of that causality problem, it sucks Gatiss.
Sucks him.
It sucks Gatiss.
Yeah, sucks Gatiss commander into the testimony, and then Bill shows up at the testimony headquarters.
Yep. and there's a scary CGI glass lady.
He literally like a Spy Kids like
Yeah.
scary CGI woman. I did not like it. It bothered me.
Then the Doctor goes to the biggest database on the planet, Rusty, the Dalek he saved for information.
It was a good callback.
Yeah, I think so. And that's kind of it. They
Yeah.
put the
It's because I think it can be summed up in that this conflict isn't like a big grand,
right. It's very subdued.
especially because the previous one was more grand, and in this one the Doctor or the testimony kind of sums it up by like not
Not every thread is.
there's not everything,
Things a threat.
yeah, not everything's like evil, like you're not the only like one who wants to do good in the universe.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of the testimony, is like giving people their loved ones back, because it creates like a AI program over a glass shell
Yep.
that they derive from the person's downloaded memories.
Yep.
And that becomes kind of an interesting subtle theme about how like Bill, the testimony version Bill, is like, I am me. It's like, I just really me,
Just
Bill.
my memories.
Yeah, but he's like
no.
yeah, because it doesn't make sense. Like, you're not just memories, you know? I mean, they argue for that, but I don't think that works.
I mean, Bill does, but the Doctor kind of doesn't. He's
Right.
almost like, no, that's not how it works, which is interesting. And then the best part of this episode, I think, is
Yes.
the Christmas themes of it. They put
Probably one of
Fat
the most
Ragus
famous.
back in his World War One pit, and it's the Christmas armistice
Yep.
in World War One. So we get this really heartwarming, cheerful.
They
scene.
even sang Silent Night
Yeah,
based.
yeah, and they kick some balls together and they hang out. It's really.
It's a good moment.
It is a really good moment.
I don't think I think they did it justice. I don't think they ruined it in any way.
And then for me,
And that's where the first Doctor's kind of conflict is resolved. He's like, so that's what it means to be a Doctor of War.
right.
And yeah.
Yeah, and then for me, they Mark Gatiss, Stephen Moffat has to go and slightly ruin this episode.
When he brings
He
Clara.
brings Clara back.
Yeah.
He gives the Doctor all his memories of Clara back, which is like the sacrifice he had to make for Clara temporarily being alive.
Well, he's about to forget it all anyway, so
Yeah, who cares?
yeah.
And that was a weird shot of Janice
You say that, but it's like, does it really surprise you that they probably were not? That was probably not filmed on the same day, and they were not in the same place.
No,
that doesn't surprise me at all.
It doesn't. No.
And I'm also not even mad about the weird ghostly effect it gives. It's because it's not really her.
Right.
So it's like it actually makes sense that it
dead.
gives this weird kind of idealistic, glowing, dreamlike state of her. So I think that actually works, but it is weird.
It is kind of weird, yeah.
In general.
I hated that they did that.
Well, it's the exact same thing as like Matt Smith seeing Child Amy.
Right. Yeah. No. I understand why they did it, because this episode is very much end of time-y in that.
Well, this is this is how Moffat does his call. He completely makes it impossible for him to actually bring back any of his companions. So he tries his best to do it in some convoluted way that isn't actually bringing them back.
Yeah.
Whereas Davy's just like, oh, they're all alive, so I'll bring them back anyway.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, this is end of timey in that he's trying to tie up all of the loose ends he's done. So he's tying up all the kind of classic Who references that he's weaved in. He ties up the. Maybe not ties up, that's not a good way to put it. He doesn't ever tie anything up. He alludes to his stupid arc about the Doctor's name in Capaldi's last speech.
You think that, but I think that's literally just the first time we had ever heard anything like that.
Oh no, I agree.
It's like just random shoehorn. But I see your point. You're right.
Because he did that. He alludes back to Clara.
I think that was a bit of a
there.
protest from Moffat, being like, "Fuck you! I'm putting this one piece of lore and exposition that I came up with that you have to deal with now. Please pick it up. Please pick it up. It is one of my ideas that I didn't use. Please."
And then he alludes to some other things as the Doctor's regenerating. We get Shepherd's Boy, so it kind of goes back to Heaven Sent. We end up this season.
Don't eat pears.
Yeah, exactly. That's what he said to Clara in Hellbent. He kind of reuses that part of his speech.
In Hellbent?
Yeah.
I thought he said that in his first episode.
No, when he's
Something about pears?
no, when he's dying or when he's getting his memories erased. That's the speech he gives to Clara.
Oh.
It's like, always be kind. And
You're right.
Don't eat pears or whatever. Who cares? In his first episode, he goes, "Goodness,
Goodness.
So it's that same kind of tie up.
No,
idea.
absolutely, yeah. It's like kind of the one last hurrah, like self-referential. Remember this. These are all.
I
This
did
is
this,
everything.
remember I
This is
did
this
this.
is everything I've done. Instead of just like, and that's where I think it kind of shoots itself in the foot because you could have just been original. Like I don't even care about the whole Bill Nardole hug thing testimony. I don't even care about the Clara thing. Like I honestly kind of expected. Yeah, I kind of expected
that kind of
it.
bothers me.
Well, it's the fact that it's not actually her that I think it works. You know, on a continuity level.
Well, I don't mind her showing up. I mind that they gave the memories back, which like even further undoes the whole.
Well, he's about to regenerate. He doesn't
whatever.
he won't fucking remember.
Whatever. I don't know why I care about it.
Even on an emotional level, I don't think like it doesn't at this point it doesn't bother me. After like a whole nother season since Clara, like I'm like whatever at this point about it. But I do think once he enters the TARDIS and gives his whole speech to himself, and it is that kind of self-referential thing where that's how it shoots itself in the foot. Whereas Moffat could have just wrote something original and like interesting. I think it's bad. I don't like his speech.
Yeah,
I don't like a single line.
I don't think his speech is very good, and not only that, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense. As we talked about, Tennant gets that one line, so it's just like him in there. Eccleston is talking to Rose. Matt Smith is talking to Clara, and he's talking to like his future self, and it just comes off as like, I gotta get this last speech into the audience before I go.
Exactly. Yeah, it's almost better if he just wouldn't have said anything.
Yeah, if he was just silent,
you could have given that would have been good. That would have been a good scene, and you could have given Capaldi, even though much of his performance as being the Doctor was very monologuous.
Yes,
as you could say.
Monologus suckus.
Monologus. You could have given him the chance to show his caliber as an actor, even without dialogue. Yes. Like you could have brought that out of him, and that could have been a more respectful thing to do almost for the actor.
Right.
But it's like, instead you give him some of your schlock that like you're kind of shoehorning in for your last hurrah.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why he did.
He'd want to do it, yeah.
But I would agree that would have probably made his actual regeneration better. And something I had mentioned to you, I felt the exact same way with Smith and Tennant. Right as he regenerates, I feel like there's this huge shift.
Of course there is.
Right, and like, yeah, of course, because that's when the showrunner takes over. But like, obviously there's going to be a shift in acting, duh.
No, in tone. I know what you're saying.
But there's a shift in tone. I feel like
it doesn't give you enough time to even dwell or like reflect.
And there's a shift in writing, and I swear to God, they changed the fucking color grading.
Yeah, they totally
might have. To this like gross saturated thing.
They totally could have. I mean, it was very. They didn't do this in End of Time, but on the following episode, it is like because yeah.
I mean, we can talk about Moffat era and Capaldi era after this, but maybe
let's
we'll
rate
just
the episode.
Go to the notes first.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't even know what this means. First note here is ass crepes, followed by Blake Radis. Bad Wolf, probably the last time we'll hear it.
Yep.
And then Woman Can't Drive.
They really do pull the whole woman can't drive. I don't have any notes, but I gave it a 7.
Yeah, I also gave this a 7. I think the episode is very good for being as low key as it is in Regeneration, as opposed to very bombastic, very finale type energy. I think that was good for Capaldi.
I just think the weakest piece is the regeneration itself, like that whole sequence.
And, unfortunately, that's very often the case. I feel like, maybe not, but
That the regeneration scene is a
Yeah.
well, I'm not a fan of Matt Smith's regeneration scene either, but I would say the best part of End of Time is David Tennant's regeneration.
Okay.
Because the rest of it is kind of just like campy, like
Definitely the first part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the second part's got a little more weight and more going on because you get Wilf and you get his
true.
sacrifice
True.
there, and yeah. Anyways.
Anyways,
off topic.
Gatiss was a decent actor in this episode.
Perfect British man.
Yeah.
I really like, despite how like on the nose, and of course they're gonna do the funny old man jokes. I actually really liked how
They were
treated the
good.
first Doctor.
Yeah, they gave him like the kind of antiquated sensibilities, but they used it as a punchline. But I think it was still funny. Like even
I agree. I laughed
it wasn't.
quite a few
It
times.
wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't exactly like they were like. Because like then it was juxtaposed by the 12th Doctor being like embarrassed.
Yeah.
So it wasn't exactly like they were like, oh fuck the first Doctor.
Yeah.
It was kind of all in good fun. It felt like
Yeah.
it was like
they were poking fun, but it wasn't too.
it wasn't malicious. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's.
Moffat era.
Moffat.
Moffat era
Mr.
and
Fat.
end of Capaldi.
Yeah.
Mr. Fat.
This is a. We gotta discuss this fat British man before another fat British man becomes the showrunner.
Let's go. Capaldi's best season was 9, not this one.
I've come around. I think I agree. I like 9 more than this, but
Yeah.
it is fairly close for me. I think what does it is Clara and Heaven Sent,
Absolutely.
for me, at least.
But this was better, significantly better than 8, I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I like this.
Well, I don't know. We'll see how the averages come out, but I just because this is in more recent memory, I'm pretty sure we enjoy this more than 8.
I did. I think the averages are actually lower than 8. but,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So Peter Capaldi.
What even is 8 besides the finale? I don't even remember.
It's got good episodes.
Mr. Pink.
Flatline. It's got Listen. It's got Mummy on the Orient Express.
True, okay.
It's got,
So I can see how that has a better average.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think Peter Capaldi is a great choice for the Doctor.
Yep.
I think as we discussed, it's definitely not him that ever brings any of it down.
Mm-mm.
It's more the material he's given. And
Yeah.
as you pointed out, just when he happened to become the Doctor was during this
Heavily politicized era. Yeah.
less.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. Like more shit per season, as opposed to like Davies. I think the one thing I gave him credit for is most of a season would be like for me 6 out of 10s.
Yeah.
And then you get some good ones and some like 4s.
Hmm.
Whereas Moffat, I feel like it's such a higher capacity to be like you go from a 1 to a 10.
Yeah.
And then that 10 is reduced to a 9 because you just watched the worst fucking
Yep.
episode ever.
Totally. It is very much, I think, just being a victim of the era it's in where we're in how we were talking about before, how like these writers suddenly feel activated or
Right.
motivated by something that's happening outside in
The
the
show.
world, that's happening outside the show. And it's like, and I don't have to get into specifics. It's just like, that's what it feels like is happening. And as opposed to Davies' era where there's less of that and things just feel more
Or
self-contained.
it's written in a way that works with the universe without it being like, oh, this is clearly analogous to.
Right, exactly. And that's how you get shit episodes like
Right.
Dying of, what is it called? Eater of the Light.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, I think that's kind of
Because we could even
one of
point
the
back-
causes.
We could even point back to the Davies era because still my worst episode that we've watched is Fear Her.
Yeah.
And the reason they wrote that is because the Olympics were coming to London.
Yeah,
so it was
it's
like an
completely-
outside effect incepting itself
Yeah, it's
into the
completely
show.
just correlated to the outside world. But again, it's like it's almost like something had just infected the writer's room after a certain point in time, just in general.
And it is amazing to me how not great I think most of the Capaldi era is, because I really like Capaldi. Clara's still my
Clara's
favorite
really good.
companion, and I think Capaldi and Clara together are maybe the best duo we've seen. Maybe.
I would have been fine with her getting a third season.
Yeah, and so it's just it's really interesting that it comes out as like a net meh.
Mhm.
Ugh.
Yeah, there's just a lot. there's just a lot of milieu that brings it down.
Yeah.
But and that's where Capaldi like is suffered as an actor, whereas he could have been the best.
Yeah,
Because
he absolutely could have.
he clearly looks and feels the part really well. Will still always cherish the Davies era
Yeah.
over the Moffat era, and I'm sure most of that is nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I still had high hopes, for Capaldi,
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean, nothing will ever take like Heaven Sent Away,
Right.
or like even Clar's start to finish.
Yeah, or Listen, or a couple of others like pretty solid ones he's got.
But yeah, it is definitely shoved in with a lot more threes rather than like sixes and fours,
and fives, or whatever, yeah. And yeah, going along with that, I don't know if I can even. I think when we started and we finished Smith, I was like, yeah, I think I like Moffat more, maybe like era wise. But at this point, I don't know if I can even decide because they are so drastically different.
That's true.
In their focus and what they're trying to do. I mean, Davies, God bless his heart, is all about fun, goofy, campy sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
He wants you to actually enjoy what you're watching.
True. Moffat wants to blow your socks off.
Yeah.
Which
he wants to deliver that masterpiece with like these high concepts, and unfortunately, a lot of that time it's going to rely on a gimmick, and that might make it suck.
fall short a little.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, like as somebody who prefers the Davies era, I totally get that, and I totally do enjoy that more kind of like high ideas sci-fi, the regulating, time and space, and doing these sort of mind-bending plots and ideas. But Moffat, I think he gets too big for his britches, and he kind of like trips over his own writing.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's like, I'm not completely shitting on him because I can see a lot of that just being stress and just being like overworking yourself.
And we think about it now, Davies ran 4 seasons and some specials.
Mm-hmm.
Moffat at this point is at his 6th season.
Right.
So he wrote like the 50th, which he was super stressed for, and like so much pressure was on.
And that was great.
It was, yeah. And so like I'll give him credit. He kept it up. I think he probably maybe should have stepped away a little sooner.
True. Now Davies is gonna be back, baby. But first we have to suffer some Chibnall.
And that's the thing. I think I don't even know if I can say I like one or the other more at this point, because some of Capaldi's seasons are really fucking rough.
Mm-hmm.
And even Matt Smith's second season, I really don't care for.
Yeah.
But the thing is, my personal enjoyment from media and from art and from anything is getting a message out of it, or getting a theme out of it, or getting like this concept out of it that you can really chew on. And I think that's what Moffat does better. What I think Davies does better is narrative and plot and character.
I think he does most of all it's people, and just making a believable,
making human,
completely kind of reducing, that's not the best word, but like centralizing like a human condition, not like the human condition, but just human conditions into characters. And I think he does that really well, and that's what I really enjoy out of media. I enjoy the things you mentioned, of course, too, and I'm sure it goes the same for you for what I'm saying. But it's like it what Davies did there like hit me harder.
Yeah, and I think Davies worked way better with emotion, because when he did melodrama, it was more, again, character focused, human focused.
And with Moffat, it's about an idea.
Exactly. So that can come off way more pretentious or
and of course he does have some emotional ideas there as well.
Sure,
and Davies could pull the occasional,
like a Midnight.
Yeah. So it's just different strokes.
It is. And that's why I want to say I like Moffat more, because that is the type of media I tend to like more. But at this point, I don't know if I would want to rewatch a lot of that
Mm,
stuff. I mean, part of that is the writers he has around him too. I think
yes.
Davies was supported by really good writers for the most part. I mean,
Matt Jones,
you
bring
had
him back.
Moffat writing his one offs every season. You had Matt Jones. You had who else? Who else wrote during then? But Stephen Moffat comes in. He brings in like Toby Whitehouse and these people
Mhm.
that you like get a little.
Yeah.
But they sometimes write good stuff. I think he does have good people with him. I think these last 3 seasons, Jamie Matheson has written some really good episodes.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very very different shows, and I'm sure going forward, God help us,
It's gonna get
very
really different again, and we're gonna be begging for Moffat, but we're gonna be begging for Gatiss.
Bring back Gatiss.
Please.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess the last thing I wanted to say was that it makes me sad because I think I had mentioned this last time in Series 9. I had always been like, yeah, Peter Capaldi's definitely my favorite from New Who. I don't think that holds true.
And it's simply because he doesn't get as good of material to work with.
It is, yeah, because I think he's a fantastic actor. I love almost all of his performances,
Mhm.
and when he kills it, he's blowing it out of the park.
He's blowing it.
I think for me, Eccleston is still my favorite of New Who.
Can't be ruined.
And I'll even give him second place of all of Who.
Oh, really?
Mr. Eccleston.
Who's your first? Oh, good old Scarf Man.
The Scarf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? Okay, let's. I mean, we can talk more about these in general, but let's just go to the season first, I guess. So, average, this one came out to 5.3 out of 10.
Is that our lowest?
It's not as low as 6 was, I think.
Okay.
It's down there. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10. I think it is comparable to Series 9, not quite as good. And let's go through the episode ranking. I think you'll agree with this. Best episode, I have Extremis.
Yeah.
You might not agree with this, followed by World Enough and Time.
Yeah. Probably put Oxygen next.
Followed by The Lie of the Land. Followed by Oxygen. Followed by 3 minutes to midnight, 3 hours to 3, whatever I'm calling it now.
Pyramid at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Twice Upon a Time. Thin Ice. Knock Cock.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor's Balls.
Put Knock Knock above the Doctor Falls.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like that one way better than the Doctor Falls.
I think both of them are meh, but the Doctor Falls has like more going on.
Then the pilot. Then Smile. Then Return of Dr. Mysterio.
What? What do you mean?
And the Empress of Mars.
What?
And finally, the Eaters of Shit.
So
The
true.
Shitters of Light.
So
The
true.
ass shit. Fuck shit. Do we have any other comments on
I think we
Ura and stuff?
basically summarized
All right,
all our
last
thoughts.
thing I want to ask, because this is Murray Gold's last season. He's leaving.
Oh yeah, that's a very significtant point because he was more toned
the only
down.
reason that the show was good.
As good as it is at all, and but he was a lot more toned down in this last one.
He was way more
Subtle, and there was really good backtracking.
There were.
And
Bill's mom's theme, I think, was pretty good.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't remember it either, but I put in the notes, so
it must be good.
Yeah.
But what are you asking? Favorite Gold track?
I was ask you your top couple. Beret Globe tracks, Glorbe Dole.
Valley Detchum, it's got to be my favorite because not only is it just a phenomenal piece of music,
It's like musically. I don't
Oh,
want to interrupt
yeah.
you here, but musically, it's probably
you
the
know
best
more
thing
about this
he's
than I
wrote,
do.
because it's the full choir and there's
Yeah,
so many.
it's like a whole symphony.
It's like these Bach these
Bachian.
canons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah, and then of course, it pairs with, one of my favorite Who scenes of all time.
Correct.
So that is definitely got to be my top. And then it's got to be Bad Wolf. I mean, I really like Doomsday, and I really like just Ten's just general some of Ten's general theme theme tracks that followed him. Like I really like the choir tune at the end of Waters of Mars.
Yeah.
That I think is phenomenal. He really used his choir for the Tenet era. And just in general, but it's definitely got that emotional drive behind it as well.
Right.
That nostalgia for my picks.
Yeah.
Whereas Shepherd's Boy is probably higher up there for you than for me.
Yeah.
But those are mine.
Yeah.
But I mean, all his pieces are great.
Yeah, he really doesn't miss. I think the only time we maybe slap him is when he is asked by the BBC to do stupid horror strings for 2 seconds. Or whatever.
Even then, I feel like that could literally just be stock.
It might be.
Yeah.
I don't know. My favorite track, it's got to be This Is Gallifrey, Our Childhood, Our Home. It's a fucking banger. Then after that, I'm not sure where I would go. Maybe Dazzling End from Turn Left. Really like that one.
Oh yeah, that's a lesser known, lesser thought of one.
Really
what's the one called with Matt Smith talking? Yeah. Is there a name for that one?
It's called The Long Song.
Okay.
I like that better as Trenzalore. Because
Okay.
Trenzalore is like this nice, subtle piano piece, and then it builds up into like Clara's theme and into I Am the Doctor, and then it ends with the whole choir like ba, 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 ba.
Yeah.
So that's good. I like that. That might be near the top for me.
Man, we don't have Moffat. We don't have gold. It's gonna be
It's
rough. It's so over.
As overplayed as it was in the era too, I really like I Am the Doctor. The Matt Smith theme.
Yeah, I know. I think it
is overplayed.
I don't even know if I enjoyed it that much, even when they first started using it when Smith showed up. I liked it maybe the first time, and then after that, I'm like, okay. Plus, I was already mad to begin with because there's this big 4-headed monkey man on my screen.
I really like Valley Detchum as well. I've got to throw it to that.
Absolutely.
Probably second place after This Is Gallifrey, if not Dazzling End, is probably Shepherd's Boy, because it fits the episode so well.
It is a great piece.
It has reversed piano and ticks in it, and the whole episode's about time and stuff. It's really well put together. Bad Wolf or original Doctor's theme has got to be there, and then Doomsday is hella good. They're really all good. Actually, not Madman with a Box. The story of the girl in the box. Hold on.
I don't know that one.
Hold on. I gotta find it here.
Let's get copyright claimed. Let's go. Just play the mid-eye version.
It's in one of the Capaldi episodes here, and I was like, "Is that the Madman with the Box?" That's what it's called.
Is that the do?
No, this is
I don't know. And it had to have been Murray Gold, but that's just what I hummed. That's what I just hummed.
I thought you were humming a long song there.
It kind of did sound like it. My key or my key was off. Yeah, I do really like that one. And then those freaking it had to have been a cello or something. Those freaking strings from Impossible Planet, man. We never got those again. You can hardly even
yeah.
find them on YouTube.
Yeah, I found it the other day, but
Right.
it's unreleased. That's why.
Yeah, it's like it wasn't its own like self-contained
Yep.
piece when it like was already just such a.
It's,
It was more mood music, I guess, but it was amazing.
If you go to the Full Impossible Planet soundtrack, you can find it on like unreleased YouTube channels. I think it's called "I'm Not Leaving Him" is the name of it, or something like that. But yeah, those that in fact, all of Impossible Planet, the score from start to end is immaculate.
So true.
Do we want to go into like our season rankings and companions too, or? Because we're gonna kill ourselves after this.
Okay, I didn't really talk about Bill very much, or like my final thoughts on Bill. I completely agree about the whole like everything they did. That's sort of like a rehashing, like a weird synthesis of other things we've already seen from other companions.
Yeah.
So there's that, and there's really only like one scene I can think of offhand that she gives me some like originality that stands out to me that I like. And other than that, and that was from Under the Ice, or what is it? Thin Ice. And other than that, I seriously do not care about Bill. Like I genuinely don't care like what happens to her. I didn't feel anything from like when she had to wait for the doctor in the bottom of the ship for 10 years, and then even when she became a Cyberman. I mean the direction, did a good job of like switching between the two, and she's a fine actress.
Yeah.
Like she did well what she was given.
Well, yeah.
Like nothing against her as an actress. I just didn't care for the character. She just doesn't. She's not really there for me as a companion. She's probably my bottom for New Who.
That's fair. I would. I think, as I told you, I'm gonna put her third to the bottom for New Who. Tied for the bottom is Amy and then Rory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they suck.
Yeah, they're down there with her, but it's I cared about them at certain points probably a little bit more than Bill, because I didn't care about Bill at all, frankly. So it's like, yeah, so it's her and then Amy and Rory.
But did you care about Amy and Rory because you were just mad at them the whole time?
I guess so. Yeah, because Bill never really I don't hate Bill, and Bill never really made me mad. Yeah, I'm just completely ambivalent. So yeah.
Yeah, the real hero is Nargle.
So true. Yeah, Nargle actually ended up like having some kind of like semi like charming comic relief moments that I didn't hate.
Yeah.
He wasn't just like a complete and utter buffoon the whole time. He was like, he went from tolerable to like, I mean, I wouldn't say enjoyable, just like, I don't know. He was whatever's in between tolerable and enjoyable.
Yeah. I would put him right above Bill.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like think Nardole should be like
number one.
Yeah, I don't. Well, number one of all time, absolute best companion. It's because we got something unique that we hadn't seen before and New Who out of him.
That's the thing. Another thing I like about this series is it's very old Who again. We have a non-human companion, and we have a group of companions rather than just one. I mean, I guess we kind of got that with Amy and Rory, but it wasn't quite the same, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Yep.
Series ranking, go.
Wait. I don't remember any of Matt Smith's stuff. What do you want from me? I could do Capaldi. He's like 9, and then this, and then 8.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Matt Smith.
All at the bottom.
He had 3 seasons, right?
He did.
His last season was probably his best, because you got to see Amy and Rory go, and then Clara was reintroduced.
I agree, yeah.
And then his first season, and then the middle season. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, okay, so comparing that with Capaldi, that's just self-contained within Matt Smith. It's like I like Capaldi better, but yeah, I don't think I could do this off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would go his last season, which is 7, his first season, which is 5, then Capaldi is 9, 10, 8, and then Matt Smith's second season, 6.
trying to turn me into you. You're trying to get me to rank everything.
Yeah.
Get
I'm gonna
a
give you
exact
odds
number
or something,
value.
Yeah, that's probably it. We're just gonna kill ourselves after this, so we don't have to watch Christian.
It's not looking good.
Anything else? Where am I? What's happening? What are we doing? What is this?